Hey, it's Saturday, March 5th. Welcome to the Morning Brew reading, and let's just hop into it. All right, for the markets, we have the NASDAQ up 1%, the S&P up 0.72%, the Dow up 0.5%, the 10-year up 2.0%, Bitcoin is down 1.11%, and the Meta is up 4.01%. Markets. Despite rising yesterday, stocks closed out the week lower for the first time in 6 weeks as investors fretted over rapidly rising prices. Tech giants like Meta drove yesterday's gains. Economy. The highest inflation rate since the early 1990s is also taking its toll on everyday Americans. U.S. consumer confidence fell to its lowest level in a decade, with 25% of UMIX survey respondents reducing their living standards due to price increases. Work news. An astonishing 4.4 million Americans quit their jobs in September, amounting to 3% of the entire workforce, per a report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's even higher than the previous record set in August when 2.9% of the workforce clocked out. The acceleration of people quitting their jobs shows that the Great Resignation is not losing any steam. Facing an attractive labor market with a record number of openings, workers are adopting a grass is always greener mentality to shop around for jobs that are more fulfilling, safer, and better paying. So where is the grass turning brown? In industries with demanding hours and where potential exposure to COVID-19 is greater. 6.6% of all workers in accommodation and food services quit their jobs in September. A, entertainment and recreation, and B, education and health services each waved goodbye to more than 50,000 workers that month. Looking ahead, expect even more mayhem in the labor market as employers ramp up hiring ahead of the holidays. Retailers are hoping to onboard 500 to 650,000 seasonal workers to meet demand, up from the 486K hired last year. Social media news. Russia cuts off access to Facebook and Twitter. The Russian government blocked access to Facebook and Twitter in the country, and not because it's worried about screen time addiction. The ban is part of the government's broader attempt to control the narrative of the war by clamping down on what it considers fake news. Also yesterday, the Russian parliament passed a law to criminalize what it deems false information about Russia's military. Anyone, including non-Russian citizens, can face up to 15 years in prison for breaking the law. I read a thing yesterday, and it was really strange. Apparently, if you are in Russia and you use Apple Maps, there was a country that was like annexed. I don't know entirely what that word means. But in 2014, Russia annexed this country. So if you're in Russia and you go on Apple Maps, it shows that country as part of Russia. But if you are anywhere outside of Russia, it shows that country as not Russia. It's weird. And maybe it's not a country. Maybe it's just a certain place in Europe. But still, I found that really interesting. Western outlets immediately reacted to what Bloomberg's editor-in-chief said, makes it impossible to continue any semblance of normal journalism inside the country. Citing the new law, BBC News and Bloomberg said they're halting the work of their journalists in Russia. CNN also announced yesterday that it will stop broadcasting in Russia. Big picture. Russian citizens can still access most sites via Telegram or through personal VPNs, but many Russian independent news organizations have already pulled Ukraine content or simply shut down due to tighter censorship policies from the Kremlin. This is a perfect example for me to tell you the value of VPNs. Literally anything you do on a VPN is encrypted, so it cannot be read, which is especially important in situations like this. If you have a country trying to lock down information and you use a VPN, you are allowed to see what you are not supposed to see deemed by the country. Now, most people just use it to watch Netflix from a different country where they show different shows. But in a situation like this, it is more valuable than you know. This is not sponsored at all, but my personal recommendation for VPNs is Proton VPN, solely because they are open source and all of their policies are really straightforward. It's loosen. Offices reopen. NYC and LA County lifted their indoor mask mandates yesterday. Coastal elites will soon be allowed to dine, shop, attend school, work out, and see movies indoors without wearing masks and or having to flash their vax cards. These moves from two of the staunchest implementers of COVID rules signal an end to U.S. pandemic restrictions as we know them. A federal mask mandate on public transit is still in effect, not that LA cares. In dropping the mask and proof of vax mandates, NYC Mayor Adams gave one directive to New Yorkers. It's time to party. Quote, "We have become so boring as a city. I want all my parades back. Every one of them." Unquote, he said. If you want my take on it, I say, sure, return to normal life, but do so in a safe way. Make sure that you're vaccinated, make sure you have your boosters, and make sure if you're around unvaccinated people or elderly people, just keep your distance and be respectful. So life is normalizing. How about work life? During his State of the Union address on Tuesday, President Biden said, "It's time for Americans to get back to work and fill our great downtowns again. People working from home can feel safe to begin to return to the office." Companies have been priming their cold brew kegs. In the last few days, several tech giants announced office reopening plans. Twitter is opening its offices and resuming business travel. Airlines cheer. March 15th. Google said employees can head back to some locations, including its Bay Area HQ, starting April 4th. And Apple told workers to return to the office 1 day per week beginning April 11th, with that Candace ramping up 2 times 3 weeks later. American Express, Meta, and Microsoft are among the companies that already introduced back-to-office plans last month. But hopes for full offices and bustling business districts are unrealistic. Economists estimate that 3/4 of the increase in telework during COVID will continue past the pandemic stage of the disease, and the number of fully remote workers will double compared to before the pandemic. Many employees who do return to offices won't be required to work in person for the entire week. Twitter, in particular, has gone so far as to leave the decisions of working in offices and for how many days entirely up to its employees. Big picture. Companies that don't offer flexible work options could be at a disadvantage for hiring new employees and retaining current ones in this tight labor market. 60% of U.S. workers with jobs that can be done from home say that, given the choice, they'd prefer to work from home all or most of the time, according to a recent Pew survey. As someone who works from home, 100% agree. I do work night shifts, so it's a little different, but I no longer have to set an alarm for when I wake up. I wake up when I wake up, and it's fantastic. I no longer have this bing, bing, bing waking me up. I just wake up naturally every day. I no longer have to waste money on gas getting to and from work, and I no longer have to worry about my car tearing itself down driving to and from work. I can just use my car to drive to the store, to the movies, and that's like once or twice a week. It's not bad at all. It saves so much money, and it saves money in repairs too. So before you let your company tell you, hey, back to the office you go, ask them if they allow a work from home option if you think you'd enjoy that lifestyle. Former VP Mike Pence denounced the Republicans who have failed to criticize Russian President Vladimir Putin at a speech to GOP donors in New Orleans last night. Quote, "There is no room in this party for apologists for Putin." Ukraine's latest. Western leaders condemned Russia's attack on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine early Friday morning. By the grace of God, the world narrowly averted a nuclear catastrophe last night, the U.S. envoy to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, said. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian port city of Mariupol has been besieged by Russian forces, and its mayor said residents have no water, heat, or electricity. Russian oil ban debated. The U.S. is reportedly considering a ban on U.S. imports of Russian crude, though the White House is still hesitant given the potential impacts on U.S. and European economies. In a poll taken yesterday of Morning Brew's readers, 92% supported a ban on Russian energy exports to the West. 2 thumbs up for the jobs report. U.S. employers added 678,000 jobs in February, far more than expected, and the unemployment rate fell to 3.8%. And in the more potential good news, annual wage growth ticketed down from the prior month. Why is that even remotely good news? Because it suggests that the feared wage price spiral that could drive inflation even higher may not be materializing. What else is brewing? Elon Musk continued to sell Tesla shares yesterday, bringing the total value of stock he sold this week to $5.8 billion. The SEC rejected a proposed ETF from Van Eck that would have directly tracked Bitcoin's price moves. Bitcoin ETFs approved to date only track futures contracts. President Biden will nominate Robert Califf to lead the FDA. Califf served as the head of the agency for 2 years during the Obama administration. John Gruden sued the NFL and its commissioner, Roger Goodell, accusing them of leaking private emails in order to force him out of this job as coach of the Raiders. This isn't the typical morning brew style that I've done in a while, but it is Saturday now and I have to sleep in the morning and I work overnight. So I was able to get most of the articles, so that's good. Although the downside was that most of the articles were much longer than I'm used to, so I only gave about 3 of them out of the 7 that they had. So if you want to gauge the entire morning brew for Saturday, go to their website. You can see the rest of the articles there. All right, that's where we're going to end it. Thank you so much for joining me for this. I know it's a little bit weird because it's not the traditional format that we're used to, but those will pick up on Monday as usual. Thanks everyone for joining, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.